This is PhotoWalkthrough.com, Tutorial 2, Chapter 3. The first thing I'd like to quickly do in this video is just point out to you getting the layer order right is important. I mentioned this in the last video. I promised to show you, and I will now. The cross-processing layer here I've got right at the top, and the reason for that is that I want all of the lightness and darkness edits I'm doing in the dodging and burning, the vignettes and the contrasts. I want those all to be affected by that cross-processing. But if I was to drag the cross-processing layer down to here, below the contrast, watch what happens to the colours, particularly the blues on the left of the image. Bang, they all disappear. And the reason for that is that the cross-processing adds quite a lot of blue in those darkened areas, but it's only going to do it on the, if I have it here, on the information in the background layer, which, if you look at the original, is all reasonably grey and quite light, not a great deal of contrast in there. And this cross-processing effect really benefits from quite a lot of contrast. So if I was to drag it above the contrast layer, immediately we're starting to get some more blue in. If I drag it above the vignette, we're starting to get even more blue in. And then above the dodge and burn, we're starting to get the blue in the areas that I burned and dodged. So, getting the layer order there is really important. Now, the next thing I wanted to cover, and what this video is really about, is spot editing. And the reason I've added this video to this tutorial is up in this corner here, there's a little dirty bit, that's just a little light bit in the corner. Now, typically, the way you would do that is to spot edit it out. And what I would like to do is I would actually like my spot edit to go on a new layer. So I've created a new layer and I've done it directly above the background. My approach to these things is to try and keep all my bitmap data right at the bottom, so that the background with the actual image in it and spot edits are right next to each other. And if needs be, if I want to do a noise reduction or something, I can create a copy of everything up to that point, create a new layer there, and I would do all the bits that have got image data in right at the bottom, and then all the bits that have got light changing or adjustment layers or whatever, I would tend to keep towards the top. So the question is, how do we do a clone stamp, which is choosing the clone stamps tool here. You can get to that tool just by pressing S. How do we get those clone stamp to work on a new layer? And the way that works is you have to turn on this sample all layers. And what that will do is when you start cloning, so let's just take an example. If you hold down the Alt key and click on your image, that says this is where I want the source to be for what I'm about to start painting. And then when you let go, you can paint in. Now, if you look carefully, I've intentionally done this wrong. It doesn't look right. I'll just make it a little more obvious. What it's done is, it's because we're sampling all layers, it's sampling what we can actually see. All the layers that are turned on, it's sampling that information, and it's painting it into this layer 1 here, which, as you can see, is below all these adjustment layers. So it's taking all that adjusted data, so the background plus the contrast plus the vignette plus the dodge burn plus the cross-processing layer, it's taking that information and it's painting it into the spot edit layer down here, which is then going to have the contrast, the vignette, the dodge burn and the cross-processing applied to it again, which is why it looks quite strange. So the way we should do this is, when we make a new spot edit layer, I'm just going to rename that, turn off all the layers above it, turn on sample all layers, and then do your spot edit. So if I just grab my eraser tool and erase that spot edit, and now grab my spot edit tool again, set my sample point, and just paint in that corner, you can see that that's made a nice clean looking spot edit, and if I turn all those effects back on, it matches. And that is everything I wanted to do on this image. Just wanted to bring up that spot editing layer thing as a final step. I will see you in Tutorial 3.